Okay. Chaim l'chaim. Shnas Hakel is coming to an end, and never ends. Shnas Hakel is it's not a year for its own. It's a year for 7 years. So it's really special that the mothers kept this up throughout the year. Respect to the organizers. And l'chaim l'chaim. We have Skadius Peilos. You B'Hashem and l'chaim l'chaim. So the title is Parenting in Dor HaShvi. And it's a loaded subject. It's a big subject. And why Bechlal Farbrengen? Not a workshop, not a lecture. So the first simple reason is because it's 9 o'clock for people, mothers that are not on vacation ever. And everyone is slowly getting in here. Mine is still with the children, what's going on. And that's first of all, because the Yiddish Neshama deserves a Chassidus Farbrengen, Chodesh Elul, and the Kanig of Basada. All of us, Yid and Chassidim. And even more than that, then I'll get into the subject of chinuch, and my honest belief is this: there are people that have everything figured out. That fits into a presentation and a PowerPoint, and when life just clapped like a system, it's fine. I don't know if they still sell them. Little menchies or kids that they wind them and they just walk and they're mechanical. It's not exactly how life looks. And the real game changer in chinuch is who you are, much more than what you say, and even what you do. The kids know who their mother is, who their father is, and therefore that happens by Chassidus Farbrengen. What we're here for, be'etzem, Chassidus Farbrengen is an opportunity to vacant, to good translation, to marinate in a concept and an inyan, and with a niggin, to connect to where we want to be, and when that perspective is in place, everything else flows from there, and that's really what we all deserve and what we need from time to time, and maybe even more than from time to time. So, it pashut to present a structured step-by-step system for chinuch is someone that says he has it in mamish, everything is included in here is I don't say someone's chalomis or just it's lying, but it's pashut not practical. And there definitely you need to have tools available, but it's much more about who you are. So, Farbrengen is an opportunity to, Al Chazer Chassidus Shemaisa is a Maisa the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov was once walking with a group of his Chassidim, and I like the Chazer this Maisa, and they're walking together, and stops near them. They pass by a water carrier, an old Yid, and he gives near them a krecht. So the Baal Shem Tov stops the whole Chavraya Kadisha and turns to them and says, what's going on? So he says, life is terrible. It's a disaster. Life is, so how bad could life be? So he says, look at me. I'm, right? That's a good example. How complicated could life be? So he says, I'm in my 90s. All my friends, what are they doing at this point in life? They're sitting in koilel, they're resting. So me, first of all, I have my daughter, like she wasn't married anymore, she's divorced, and she's in my house, and I need to support not only the kids on my head, the Eniklach are on my head, and I have to support my daughter. I may have had a mechubadik job, but it's backbreaking labor to fill up buckets and knock on doors. Do you want some water? It's not for me. It's backbreaking labor. So the Baal Shem Tov gives him a bracha. He says, I want to give you a bracha. You should have a wonderful life. Okay? So Rai Kaddish are looking at each other. How much life is left for this to become wonderful? He's not. And they took note of the direction he went in because they wanted to see how this is going to end up. A few months later, so they they go in that direction, ask if there's a water carrier from this side of town. So they direct him to a house. He goes to the house, and he knocks on the door. They knock on the door, the Chassidim, and he opens the door, and they say, "No, $1 million question. How's life?" So he says, "Life is mamish wonderful," and they see the Eniklach yanking on his kapata, and he's all. So how wonderful is life? Tell us about it. So he says, what are you talking about? He says, why do you think my friends are sitting? They're sitting and resting. Because they're resting. They're resting because they can't do anything else. They're also brachna beina. They can't move. And me, Baruch Hashem, I get up and I go. And they said that, what's with your daughter? He said, what's with my daughter? She was so bitter all these years. Oh, now she's smiling. I get to see her the whole time. And they say, and what's about, ungeschmiert, all this. It's 8 o'clock, they're hanging on it. He says, what are you doing? My friends, if they want to go visit their 8 o'clock, they have to get an invitation. Then when they get an invitation, they have to go. And after 2-3 days, they get a hint. They hopefully get the hint quick enough, and they shouldn't become a burden. He says, I have them in front of me whenever I want. I can play with them. Look, they're so cute. Look at this and look at that. So the Chavrai Kaddish understood a more like thing. They thought this is like the Baal Shem Tov stories, that he's going to give a bracha, and the windmill, the Paritz is going to gift the windmill, and then the Mises, and they're going to gift and Maisa the Poyel. Evidently, the bracha of the Baal Shem Tov was that the mind should change. And the reason why I feel Chassidus Farbrengen is the way to go, is because the truth is we all inherently have instincts of what chinuch is supposed to look like for our children, and we just need to renew it. We need to be in the right headspace. We're not in the right headspace, and that's why not only we need a Chassidus Farbrengen, everybody, and this is not just the place for it to happen. There's Chassidus Farbrengen, there is Limud HaTorah, taking some time once in a while to learn, and even taking time for yourself. It's an investment, even if it's on the cheshbon. In the immediate, it looks like it's on the cheshbon of the family and of the children. At the end of the day, being present is a gift you're giving to your children. The biggest gift, they have one time in their life, and this is why it's worth investing in. At one time in their life, they have childhood, the kinder, and the best they can get is our best self. And therefore, us taking the time to think about chinuch, to renew our commitment to our kinder, the matana the Eibishter gives us, that itself is the biggest matana we're giving them, whether they're right there in that time or not. So, so these are important nekudas, and this is one of the things we're doing. I'm saying Hakel is about litin schalim v'eim. Is retroactively schar for the parents for bringing their children. Why the top coming to give schar? A lot of things we do, which may seem like we're just taking time for ourselves, are really you get schalim v'eim. You get schar for what the children receive from it, and it's important. It's important to take this time, and to be available for the children. I'm going to say a lot of, I try to make it practical and ideas. So I know it's a Chassidus Farbrengen, but there's pens and there's papers. We ask a principal, you have an opportunity to talk to the mothers. Oh boy. I'm sure you also prepared a whole bunch of stuff you want to say. And I want to tell you that there's, if we're already on the subject, there is something that I would like to say in general. And there are those that already picked up on it. There's a change in the model of what a principal is that some already picked up. There is, it's true that anytime there's an issue in the classroom, or anytime a parent has an issue with what's going on in the classroom, so the address is the principal. So it can seem like he has a big big sign on his forehead called problems. If you have problems, call me. I have problems, I call you. We're all dealing with problems. But you should know that just like I tell parents, I tell teachers. A teacher comes to me with an issue with a certain boy. Do you know the boy? Do you know a little bit about him? Well, it's also my job because I follow the children from day one, from year to year. And we also do that, and you can't, not everything on one foot, and they touch base with other teachers. But the nakuda is that just like I want the teachers to know the children, and because the more they know, the more they can help the child. In the same vein, I'll be honest, there are some parents that had this paradigm shift that they call just for eitzes or to hear an idea about a certain subject. Everyone has issues. Everyone has problems going on. And not because they're problems, because chinuch today is a wonderful chinuch today. I want to tell you a little bit about children today. Okay, children today are extreme. They're independent without any life experience. They're already giving you opinions on how you should run your life. And they start, and the age is getting younger and younger. That they already have opinions, and it's what's moiridik is that you should know it's a stage in Yemaisa Mashiach. The Rabbi always looks at it. It's a positive thing. It's part of Enibu Bneichem Ubnei Seichem that it says that the children already will be on a level that they're able to highest levels of understanding. And the truth is that there's a mimer that discusses this, that Soif Zman HaGalus, there's a birur of Rahanelam. It's good for you to know this concept. Soif Zman HaGalus, there's a birur. It's the time to elevate Rahanelam, very concealed, I guess, nitzoitzis. And therefore, once upon a time, life was very, very simple. A cookie was a cookie. That's all it was. It was kamach, it was veitz with some sugar, and that's what it was. Today, there's a million ingredients. That's how people are today. And there's how they feel from minute to minute. And why is that? Because it's time to be mevarer much deeper. People were much simpler, Mo. People were much more idealistic. They had an opinion, and that's what took them through and through. And once Chassidim, I just give this is one mashal that gives you to understand how people are different today, and it's important to understand what our avodah is. But once upon a time, there used to be a vart between Chassidim al kopanim afertel shah 15 minutes trachten wegen sich. 15 minutes a day al kopanim. A chassid should think about himself, about his situation, about who he is. Today, it's pretty much like 15 minutes you shouldn't think about it, right? Everyone, how I feel about this, how I feel about that, how this hit rubs me this way and rubs me that way, and this person came into the room. It's a whole, and the real reason behind it, there is a mimer. The mamish says this. The mamish says that it's a beer of rahanel, and that we're being mevara. So Zman HaGalus is the lowest. That means mamish things that used to be glossed over, and the children, they're mamish in tune, and they're in tune to how we feel, and it's a reality. And so you could decide to not to talk about it, yet to talk about it. But regardless, that is the mitzvah. And b'meila, we have to take the time to think how to do it, because these children, they're very independent in their mind. That means they understand, they have their feeling about things, and they have an understanding. And the truth is, they, as macho as they come across, they need a lot of emotional support. More than a mo, like 10 times more. And they need a lot more guidance, but it has to be done in a very smart way, because it's mamish the sikh of last week, where the Rabbi Farbrengen with us, that it's time for yoyatzin, shoitrim. So yes, we do have in the children's life, there's the shoiter. Who's the shoiter? Guess who? Okay, right. And there is a shoiter in the children's life, and it gives them stability. You should know that a child that grows up, I'm telling you, this is very sad. If a child grows up without firm limits to a certain degree, so you think you're doing a parent can think, and again, we're not talking about anyone specific. These are pitfalls that we all fall through and fall out of, and we have to, and it's all really about balance. But a child that doesn't have boundaries, you think you're doing them a favor. The kid could do what he wants, but at the end of the day, these children grow up, they can't get themselves out of bed. If they never had to conform and they never had rules, and it's hard, it's a big balance. Once upon a time, there was the mother and there was the father. Today, there's WhatsApp. Okay, that's a big problem. But without talking about that, the mother does play a lot of the role. The Rabbi, I quoted this by one of the open houses recently, that the Rabbi made a huge shinui in the system, where the Rabbi not only suggested, instituted that girls should learn Gemara. And the vart was Chassidus. We know the Rebbe said, even though it was against Stam learning Limud Torah, because it's part of Yiras Shamayim, it's part of halacha, it's part of what, for that today to live, you need to be able to combat the ruchos. You need Chassidus. But Gemara, for what does a girl need to learn Gemara in high school and seminary? Because they're the ones that meet the children, and the father comes home eisgewebt. Okay. And therefore, they don't need to be able to teach, but they need to know enough of the structure. So the children need the balance of firmness, and we need to believe in this to be able to do it without a broken heart. You understand? Because a kid comes across when he's, kids could cry. It's such a type of thing, and together with that. It's our avoida to get them also to want, to be their yoyitz. And therefore, the balance is between you representing to a certain degree the rules in a child's life. That's more the father role. We know that Hakel includes by everybody. So the Nashim include the Anashim. There's the firmness also, and the Adpoi Tavoy, and all of us, and you have to choose. It's always a balance between overseeing and overlooking. You always have to choose, and it's a decision we make tens of times in an hour. It could be tens of times in a minute. What to decide, where to put the firmness, and where to guide him through, and where to give him space. And it's a wonderful schus to be involved in the chinuch of the frontliners that usher in the Isgalus. It's a very, very special schus that parents today have. And these children are able to, interestingly enough, accomplish shaloi be'erach to what children amal were able to accomplish. It's a mitzias today. The younger people are able to, in less time, with more influence, mamish, make a mapecha in the world. And I'm not even talking about in terms of countries, and I'm talking about miftzayim and getting word out and inspiring people. And it's a schus that we have to bring them on board. It's avoida. I want to say that I'll share, I'll summarize a few of the nekudas. Maybe I'll say l'chaim, I'll go out, you'll have a chance to sing a niggin. So Farbrengen, there's a lot to internalize, but the tzir of a parent today is a real uftu. It's a lot of work. A parent has to be able to play on the floor with their child. At the end of the day, a parent, a father, and a mother have to be able to be silly, simple, saying, to go down to the level of child, and to be able to talk them through things, and to be there for them as a support, and then tell them, whoops, ad poi tavai, this is already, put down limits. It's a lot, and you have to be, and today's day, this Farbrengen was inspired by two mothers that came to discuss with me a certain issue that we're working on, something else. But just on this, we were discussing abuse, and what all abusers say is that they would never start up with a child that's well adept and well connected with their parents. And that doesn't mean that everything he talks to you and therefore the best thing you can do for your child really is to be their best friend. He's not your best friend. You have to be very careful. He's not your best friend. You can't really be on their level. You have to be able to balance, like we were saying, being together their guide and you standing above the picture and guiding them. But together with that, Pashit being open, and more important, like you should be the address for all their questions. And it sounds scary, you need to be their answer for all their questions. You have to have the right answer. I want to tell you, first of all, more important than the right answer is and this goes for all subjects, is the casualness and the ninochut that you have when you're answering the question. Because if you're complicated, then it's a big problem about the subject, more sensitive subject. Well, and therefore, for a parent to be present today is a huge chiddush, and that's one of the things we're Farbrengen about, to realize how important that is. And I don't want to just make it sound simple. What I would make sound a little bit more simple, is in the Nakud I was discussing earlier with Mrs. Dubab, is the opening and the closing of the day really wraps it up. The kid could have a wonderful day, and he could even have a wonderful evening. When they come home, the first 5 minutes, if the first 5 minutes you don't have your phone, after, and you give them a feeling that you're with them, that's all we're really asking for. Right before they go to school, and right before they, and we're talking about, it's not picture perfect. The Yiddish house is not picture perfect. It's not one child in a laboratory. It's a it's a big juggling scene while you're trying to be present to three different children, while should the phone calls coming. I'm just taking it to the next level. While you're still dealing with yesterday and someone else's issue, and you're also bringing income. Okay, and it's a huge. So those 5 minutes, and you don't even have to be available, to hear the whole, the whole 9 yards, and cry it through together with them. But even if you make eye contact and you say, I'm finishing this important call, and I'm mamish going to be with you, and you finish and you talk. There's a limit to how much you could push, use that card, but
actually need to go to him by the end of the war, not get to that.
Right. You should keep your words if that's what we want from them. But the tzir of a parent today is something that we need to, again and again. It's a lot of juggling again, and they're mamish obstacles. I'll tell you what I tell fathers. Don't. This is a men issue, but it's kedai to know of it, because today, it crosses. Right. Also, Baruch Hashem for that. So, I have children. So, I tell husbands, there used to be, as I say there, the father from Amol used to be like this. He's perfect. Never makes a mistake. He mamish has the answer to all these questions. Should never be caught, chas v'shalom, not knowing the answer. And you should know that today it's a huge mistake to do that. First of all, because it's not practical, and b'meila, what are you setting up the child to believe, that he's going to be perfect? He's never going to be able to be that. If you open a Tanya, there's things that it says over there that everyone. If you're a Beinani of Tanya, you're struggling all the time. So to give a tzir like you're perfect is pasha. It's also sheker, mind you. But I'm saying it's not emes, and you don't want him to kill himself and beat himself over because he's not perfect. The model that Al Rebbe gives us is to train the child that we're work in progress. Another reason you don't want to give that to your son is because he's gonna see you at the end of the day slipping. How much could you hold up a tzir that you never looked at your phone in the middle of the day? It could be, if that's an example. Baruch Hashem, there are people that could. Not talking to film. There's many levels, and everything I'm saying is kol chad from shir delay. You should know that children have no issue understanding, and I'm saying this full confidence because I've taken parents into cheder. I say, listen, this is our standard. This is who we are. I'm okay you not holding there. You should just know. I even had a fathers without about as long as you're on the way up, this is where you're heading. It's not going to work against you, otherwise you came to the wrong store. But a father without a beard, and I tell him, you should know. Beferish, we're going to talk about that Tzemach Tzedek that holds its Isser, the Raisa, came Tar, and Yarek Val Yaver. There's a place where not only that was the Metzias. Chassidim went Yarek Val Yaver, And you should know your son is not going to have a problem with the fact that you're missing a beard, as long as he knows that you believe that's right, and you're working on this now. Kids could accept that. And they'll understand, even if they're 10 steps ahead of you, he's working on Rambam. You're working on what you're working. This is the tzir that the Alter Rebbe gives us in Tanya for how we're supposed to, it's not how we're supposed to look. This is the story of our life. Tanya is the DNA of a Yid. It's the first tzir of the anatomy of a Yid. And this is a Yid. A Yid is work in progress. And by the Eibishter, that what his Nisayon or his Eskafia Sitrachra is like by any other Yid, the greatest of great. And that is a tzir that we want to convey to that child. If you're perfect, and he sees afterwards it's going to break. So I'm just trying to bring this, trying to have this tzir of what a parent is supposed to be, and it's very hard to describe in one sentence. It's not practical. But you should know that we are the perfect ones chosen for the job, right? And the children need precisely this. The children need who we are for this generation. Bifrata and Akeres Abayis. I'll talk about the role of mother specifically, but children see and get so much more from who you are, and therefore the biggest avoida is not big plans and big systems as much as being there available now. What's the right thing now? What's the right thing for me to be doing now? And how present can I get now? And sometimes you have to let off steam, so you take a break. Also, you need to. But that is really the key to having kids comfortable with who they are, is by you being comfortable with who you are. I'll add another nakuda. Just people sometimes complicate things. This is a huge problem, and there's like 3 steps to I'm talking about when a kid comes home with an issue. I'm not saying it doesn't need to be dealt with. The more you simplify it, the more it's a simple problem for him to deal with. You are the front of the classroom in the house, and the way you respond to it, that's the way he's taking it. I'm not saying it's not an issue. You don't want to, it's a fine line to validate and together to guide. Like I said, these children know everything. they have their opinion, they have an approach to something, and validating lets them let go of what they're holding on to, and then you could wisely guide them and deal with the problem. I'm not saying it's not a problem, but when you simplify it, when by you it's simple, okay, so what do we need to do about it? What can we do? So what you're saying is a kid could talk for 25 minutes, and if you have those 25 minutes, otherwise, and then you say what you're saying is such and such. So what you're really saying is this and this. You made it simple, and then okay, let's think what we could do. And the answer is usually simple. The more ingredients there are to the cookies, I'm saying, the more. And honestly, this is part of the process of being mevara this rahanelam, by taking these emotions and the adam, the neshama, shining through them. It's a nisayin, like nisyanis, and we have the koyach to really walk them through this. And you have to look at it. You have to be, not only we all have to be proud of this. There's the Maisa Reb, the Maisa of Reb. There's a Maisa of Rabbi Yisrael Nevler. Yisrael Nevler was a Malamed in Nevel. Afterwards in Poking, he passed away. Rabbi Yisrael Nevler was once seen like very late, going with his talis and film to shul, like very late. And he was a tzir of a chassid. I mean, he was a big bal eskaf. You should know that between chassidim, he was considered a bal madrega. Bal madrega means that, like the Alter Rebbe talks about, Ava Yira, he had dargis. Someone once asked him how he reached in a moment of truth, how do we reach the dargis? Like not just what we all, and you should know by the Eibush cherishes it, but to reach the Nyan that the Rabbi saying are talking about how we reach that. So he said the following. I don't know if it was because he was known to be also a letz, but he saying he was a Freilich by Chassidim, and this is important. By Chassidim, a tzir of a Chassid was a Freilich Yid, not ungezogen. And even though ungezogen, how you say, uptight, uptight, strained, like angestrengt. It wasn't as even though everything is nagia clip, by according to Chassidus, even Tavis Heter is already klippas noiga. It's a klippa. By Chassidim, the whole world is a mechudesh, and B'meila is very, very overgelegt. So he was also Freilich Yid, but he said like this. He said that he once took a cup of water. He was very thirsty, and he looked at the cup of water, and he said, "I'm in control." And he waited, and until he said after a while, a few hours, he said it was never the same afterwards. It Yisrael Nevler, but Rabbi Yisrael Nevler was once seen. I was just describing. He was a real special chassid, and he was once seen going to shul very late. So someone asked him, Rabbi Yisrael, I mean, it's not tefillah. I mean, he was not even learning chassidus. I don't know. So he said, "I'll tell you the truth. I was going to shul this morning. I was about to leave. I was going to shul this morning. All of a sudden, I saw a woman. Mom was stuck with kids. Mom didn't have who should help her. Her husband wasn't there. And it was mamish shrekla chasin. So I left everything, and I fed them, and I helped her, and I helped you masada the children, and take who needed to go, and organize the house, and now I finished. I'm going. I'm on the way to shul." So the Yid all of a sudden, the one that asked him was all in a spose. Let's see, Rabbi Yisrael Nevler should make breakfast, So when he continued walking, he turns back. He says, "It's a nafkamina that it's my wife." She just happens to be my wife. I'm saying. So we have to realize the shlichus of our children is a huge schus. And we have to renew. That's why we're here. That's why there's hakel. That's why we're here to pashat renew our chayis. And it's not the only place. I think anytime there's a chassidus Farbrengen, learning, reconnecting, we are the schus. It says Ein ben David bat yichul kol neshama shebeguf. These are the children, the final dor of galus, the first dor of Galus, like the Rebbe continuously reminds us, and these are the children that are ready. V'nibu b'neichem u'b'neiseichen. They're already, they're 10 steps ahead, and handling these children, the Rebbe says they need yoyatzim. You're also the shaiter, also the yoyatz. So you have the luxury of saying to the child, I heard in school they say this and this. I love you anyways. So you don't have to take on, and just telling you don't have to necessarily, you shouldn't say fakert, but you don't have to be the advocate. Say, okay, this is the rule. This is what school, I hear what you're saying. This is school's rule. And you could ask them, but you should know, how are we going to deal with it? You understand? You don't need to be the shaiter. You could be the yoyetz of how to go about it. But the Rebbe's model is yoyatzin. You also have to play the role, and it's not always so simple. It's a big juggling act, and it's a lot of, you want to be able to chap opportunities today. And Chassidus gives us so many dates to create impressions. And I remember I had a therapist in Cheder. Let me say something about therapy before we go right on therapist. My own opinion. It's like, and I get to know, this is a word I heard from Rav Shalom Rabashkin. You should know that this is very, very, very richtig. I was once discussing with him his known opinions about therapists. You do what you do. And I was discussing with him because the truth is that sometimes they are matzilin nefashos. There are cases. I don't know if it's a blanket statement to say. But he said the heipich das Torah. Going against Torah. So I said, where did they go against Torah? And he made a gewaldige point. And I want to tell you, it's mamish richtig. He said, every emotion and every thought that's brought up is chewed over and validated. Because a child, that's how he feels. We have to. And the only thing that they're not considering is that that this child also has a Yetzer Hara, and some thoughts don't need to be validated. It just came from the wrong place. To move on. Okay? And it's very, 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 very richtig. Because as much as we have to validate, you want to help the child also identify where things are coming from. Because at the end of the day, not every thought that comes to his mind is Kodesh Kodashim. And you say, wow, when you have this type of feeling, it's a matana from the Eibishter. It's an opportunity to overpower the Yetzer Tov. You should know that it's not, this is not, it's from the Yetzer Hara. And it doesn't mean you're bad. Everybody has an Nefesh HaBamis. And it's an opportunity. There's a whole mimer, every such a problem is an opportunity for you to show starkheit. Goes back to the story of Rabbi Shaul Nevler. That's a big darga, but you should know that when a child is a gibor, when a child is able to say, my Yetzer Hara told me and I didn't follow through with it, or I stopped it. Okay? You're helping it. These are real life tools. It's not just validation for the purpose of getting him afterwards to the next step. You're giving him the koyach to identify and to label. This is this is the type of thought that I'm in control and I can move on. And it's not just one time saying it; it's a process. And by us living like Chassidim, like it says in Tanya, and like Chassidus teaches us, so we are able to share that with our children. The fact that we're in I started saying something about a therapist. That's what got to me. This is actually a very old story, but there was a therapist that she was working with a family that had a very, very complicated situation. It was a little bit dysfunctional, and she was keeping it together. She was in the house, and she was in touch with me about how to go about certain things, the children, how they're doing in school. She was really doing a decent job. And then one day it was Yudalit. It was after Yudalit Kislev, and she came in. She said she wants to talk to me. She wants to tell me something, and she started describing how the kids yesterday they set up a chuppah in the house. There was a chassan and a kala. They were singing and going around because the Rebbe's chasana, and they put the kids set up and they made. And I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, it wasn't Lubavitch. She wasn't Lubavitch. How is she going to process this? She's, this is the Chastan Tafresh pay test saying this. And the mama, she's the Rebbetzin, and the mama is modeling the whole thing. And they sat down and they were singing. And she said, you should know that I realized I have a lot to learn from this family. So I was like, okay. So she says, you should know there's dates that Torah wants us to relive things that happen. Hanukkah, Purim. I don't live the next Hanukkah like they live this Chasana. Mamish. The way they mamish live the day. And I'm saying this because Chassidus gives us so many, not only dates is a good one, okay? And it's very negeh, because you should know that we go through so many things on a daily basis with each child. They have enough issues to cover. If we had all the time for them, each one could take your whole time. And you think, like, where is it happening? The chinuch. It's not like, there's a show and you open the curtains, watch this. This is the chinuch. It's not how it happens. Chinuch happens, it's a retzach shel reshamim. So I heard this from Reb Chaim Binyamini. My first experience in chinuch was like 20 years ago in Petropolis in Brazil. Most don't know. And Rabbi Binyamin was a yid. He was a rav before the war, a very, very special yid. And he, man, this is she's not here. Oh, from Petropolis, Reb Chaim Binyamini. Chaim Binyamini is a very, very, very derhoibin yid, a very special yid. He went through Bergen-Belsen. His wife went through Auschwitz. And he told me, he said, like, he Bechlal couldn't understand this generation. He mamish. There's no kid that finished the school. Every kid, every bacher got kicked out at some point. It was like, that was the say that nobody ever finished the school. There was no such thing. And they all at some point, like, he couldn't understand. And this gave me a window into where they weren't connected to Rahan Elam, where they didn't have to be Mevara these things. It wasn't this way, Amo. He couldn't understand how a boy in the morning says Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, and then takes toilet paper and makes it wet and throws it on the wall. He couldn't understand it. He couldn't. How could it even happen if he said Shema Yisrael in the morning? And I'm just watching this unfold, and it's nishpashit because our job as shluchim, we were like the padding for these boys, and they learned a lot. You should know that it's important to know this. That parents that it's true that you're always on display for your children, always on display, and they learn much more from what you don't say than what you do say. They learn much more from the way you handle situations, and you're like try not to mix work and home. You try as much as possible. For those that think it's shaykh, for those that are shaykh, it's gewaldig. I never knew what my father does for a living. I was a bacher. What does your father do? I didn't know. I know he goes to New Jersey. I knew he was connected to the OK somehow. I didn't know what he was doing. That's a gewaldig gedarge. It's many years ago. I don't know if that's, today they know how much they can teach you how to make more. You understand?
Yeah, exactly.
So, but where did I all of a sudden realize the kids know so much more than you think? As my oldest son is ready now in the Sifta. So he, at some point when he must have been maybe 3 years old, he once got a hold of my phone, which itself was a chiddush, and he sent a voice note. It's a little kid. I didn't even know how and he sent it. When the bread falls on the sides from the. He sent it to a huge group. Those days there were only 256 in a group, and it's like huge group that they rides to the oil, like the makbid, who's there and what they paste and who they take in and take out. It's like a big group. So he leaves a voice note. If you could be available to meet Rabbi Yusewitz his whole life, then you should be available. And so the kids, when we're not looking, that's where they really take it in. That's where they really, and therefore, this gets into another nakuda. I'm just going Indian, but they're all richtig. They're all richtig, and each one should connect with what they connect more. And I tell teachers the muscle, okay, we don't waste time. The kids need to feel like there's an urgency of learning. Not because they have to cover, not because we're rushing to finish, because they have to feel that we're not just lax, let's just draw another picture and take another 15 minutes. The kids will pop also, but mind you, but within that healthy pressure of we want to learn, we're using the time, faredzich. Start, like once this comes to mind, start describing something. They'll remember that much more than we start a shia. I want to talk to you about Azayin Azay. And you should know that it's a tool that I would suggest to all parents. Anything you want to bring up, you could just, it's a boy going to Masifta. I wanted to talk to my son about a sensitive thing. I just have a Rambam shir playing in the car, and I pause it, and Derech Agav, you say, whatever you. There's so many opportunities that you can just create to talk about whatever you want, and it's as if you didn't come to talk about it. This is tapping into their curiosity about who you are much more than what you say or what you think they should be hearing. And the mile of this is it's just so much about being spontaneous, fitting into the situation. Our life is so unpredictable, and their life is also. And from minute to minute, things come and change, and the amount of things that flash through. I'm not even talking about the amount of things that come through your phone per minute if you're following your phone. If you make that mistake after hours, just the amount of taka things that we deal with that are going on in life. In a shtetl, it was very simple. I mean, you finish planting the potatoes, you go home, you're home. There's nothing else to do. It's dark outside. And when it's light, you go back out. And even in the shtetl, so you sold, you bought. And beyond that, there's bitachon. But when the amount of things you're dealing with is so many, and we're all splintered, it's a tremendous tool to know that chinuch is a retzef shel reshamim. This Rabbi Binyamini told me. It's a whole bunch of impressions. It's a whole bunch of impressions. There's a Zay Yom Tif. There's such a day. Another one. I remember. If I remember now from when I was a kid, there was once. I remember a supper. I sat down by the table with my sister, and there was a shtuka, like a cake, a nice cake, a little cake. It's my birthday. It's not your birthday. Whose birthday is it? It's not mine. And my mother came to the table, and she doesn't even remember this. And she said, so we said, what was it? She said, oh, today someone in the family finished a parsha. And if they tell us what they finished, it's going to be a simcha for the whole family. And that is a huge imprint. And it takes a little presence in the moment. You heard something, you know something, you heard a boy had a success. These rishamim, you can't, not only you shouldn't beat yourself up over being, the perfect and being present all the time. The 5 minutes when they come, the time at the table, and making impressions that they'll remember. That's what they remember. What the sad thing about chinuch is, at least for me in elementary, they remember the yotzim in a klal. They don't remember the klal. When a bacher gets him, he doesn't remember that they learned 5 prakim Gemara. He just knows how to learn Gemara. That's it. He doesn't remember learning every step of the way. And therefore, there's a lot of our work that we put into, and you should know it becomes part of their fabric. It's ingrained in them. But that's not what they remember. What stands out and you should know it's a rach. It says there's a maimer pnimi va'atzmi of Talmidei HaBaal Shem, et Talmidei Admar Zaken. Maimer pnimi va'atzmi. Was gedenkst du? What do you remember? Because a person's memories, that's how they define themselves. That's who shapes the way they see themselves, the way they see their family, and most of these, you should know, probably were not as planned. Al Kopanim, they weren't pre-planned the month before. Okay, you just have to chaparain. So you heard something today, you saw in the news. There's a newsletter. Look at this. Look at that. That's one. It's very important to know this, that you don't have to have everything figured out, and you don't even have to have a system that you're going to be able to follow through from when he's Primun Aleph through Kitta Zayin. You don't need even, boom, it pulled them until a trip, and then you'll come up with something else. It's a Yom Tif, like this chasana, for them experiencing an experience is, for a child, this is an impression. And if you have a picture of it, don't leave it on your phone. You could print it and have it those that know how to do that. And they could look back at it, and it's a reichkeit that they have. I think I should really let you take a moment to sing a nigun, to internalize. There's a lot to think about. I'll just share one last nakuda, one last inyan. And I want to take questions at them. I just overloaded the amount I prepared. I never prepared, not for a shir and not for Farbrengen, as much as I prepared for this Farbrengen. Thinking, listen, I worked for you the whole time, and I'm thinking like I never had to have a chance to tell you everything I think. So, but one thing I do want to say, and this is very important. Sometimes, like I started saying earlier, it could be scary when you think that you have to have the answer for any question that comes up. And a kid could ask anything. He heard what's that a funny thing? A kid in Cheder said, this is a Maisa, someone here. My son said a certain boy has a television. He saw on the television. And whatever, I came in, I made like such a yamoy. Okay, I didn't grill the boy, but I'm trying to figure television. Oh my gosh. The kids are, whatever a boy said he has a video, he understood, right? But a kid comes home, he heard a word, and he could mamish ask you questions like you're thinking like I need to give him now a beer on I don't know what, you know. There's a clip going around of a father. It's a good question. There's a song playing, Gam Kielach Begates Almavis. And the kid is down, asks his father, "What's does gay?" And the father's mimicking and saying things, and it's an isser. And but there are people, and do they know, and what's about? And then the kid says, "So what's Talmudus? What's Talmudus?" They don't know what they say of art, and we have to add around it. So I want to say like this, but on a serious that you want to simplify always. Just wait, be calm. That's for any question. This is not only for kid. You know what happened today in school? My teacher, his mom was standing on his head. He never something definitely happened. Maybe it was Chadaram. He made a kula. It doesn't matter. Just wait. Just listen. I don't know. You want to. Teachers don't use the kulas, but it's fine. But what I want to point out is that you could control the questions your son asks. A parent once came to me and told me, my son told me he wants a leather yarmulke. A leather yarmulke. Leather yarmulke. I said, listen, once your son already wants it, so you have to be very smart. But one thing you have to learn from the story is that when you get to choose the atmosphere and the white paper on which questions are asked, and you have a lot of control of that. That means when a kid is young and he has a velvet yarmulke, and he has a shkush, he has a chi, he has a tzivus Hashem, whatever, and you say, see your older brother that he's wearing a yarmulke like the Rabbi's yarmulke. You have a haircut. Ooh, that's a chassidische edla haircut. Or you see this bacher, this is you see this boy, this is what he invested his time in. That's a type of game. Then certain things are out of the discussion. The kids to come in and say, listen, I want you. If you're koching sich, and not because you're forcing something down his throat, do faretzich. Go geschmack. I get him as look, let's see here. I would take my son to see a person davening after hours. Psh, look at that. So let's see Rav Chazad. Or look at that person doing miftzayim. You drove, you stopped. Let's stop and look at it. Psh, I wish I davened. My son should be as I. In that, so kid's gonna say, listen, can I work and make some money? I'll learn auto body. The kid is a certain. You set the tone. Now again, things can happen. Children, it's not like we plan everything, but you do have control more than you think in terms of setting the stage for what is in place or asking. And that still goes together with the fact that he knows that he'll ask you whatever he wants. You have to be close enough that he's able to ask questions. But together with that, you do have control over what the children feel comfortable expressing, asking. It's control. It is control. When a person realizes this, you'll start taking pride in the atmosphere that you're able to set. It's a lot of what teachers do in the classroom. Setting the tone that certain things are ungefragt is. I tell teachers, if you have a whole bunch of good solutions to a whole bunch of problems, you didn't help me. I'm saying that's not how we're mechanech. If you set the tone in the class that it's a chassidish atmosphere, the kid knows that this is what's tired to. If he wants to impress you, he knows how to impress you. Okay, then you set, so for sure he can impress you. You'll give him all the time in the world, and he knows if he'll come to you with this type of sneakers, you'll also, wow, it's new sneakers. But together with that, he knows what really you kachsich in. So that is a tremendous control that we do have. And I'm not giving this only as a tip of what to do. It's everything I'm saying now is really a pat on the back. You have to stop and appreciate, because these are in a world where kids are just flying. I'm saying that the stuff a kid sees on the bus from his house to Cheder is the amount that in a shtetl in 40 years they saw such mishigas and such schmutz. It's not normal what they see. I'm just saying b'chlal what they're exposed to, and the amount of change that is going on in their life and they're aware of in this family and that family and this business and that fell and this and regardless, without even touching on with Baruch Hashem that our kids are Baruch Hashem, they're not following the web and they're not following politics. Without all that, it's and you having the fortitude and the foresight and the presence to create in your house. This is an island. This is an island. Ar Menachem is an island, you should know. The kids are living on a cloud. I mean, they really don't, in a good way.
In a very good way.
Yeah. So, but I want to tell you that each house really, what I'm saying is they're not only suggestions, they're not only ideas. Well, they are to renew because you all thought of this, and you all before you got married, you sat and you wrote to the Rebbe that you want to build a binyan adiyada. You say the Torah mitzvah. You got the Rebbe's bracha, and these are the ways of making it happen. The way there is the Rebbe's solution is having a chassidus Farbrengen or Elul, Chayel, Temkatzunis, Yastus Temkatzunim. But all these ideas are also, you should know, it's a tremendous chiddush that in our dor you could create that type of space in your home, where the values that you present are the values. And even though he met people far charismatic, more charismatic than you, and seeing things that are much more enticing than whatever you could present in wherever I'm talking, depending on the age, depending on what they've been through, you being able to be a model that he wants to be like you. And it's true, it's a big job to be a fun mother also while you're juggling everything else, right? And while you're cooking and to take them to cook together with you and decide what they're buying for Shabbos, and this kid like this treat, and everybody with all the tricks that we all try and do and are successful, and then they just switch to the next tricks. It's a tremendous chiddush. And one of the things that I'm pointing out and we're bringing about is to appreciate that. You have to appreciate it, because if you appreciate it, you'll do it again. And therefore, if he'll appreciate Shabbos, he'll do that also, B'ezras Hashem, again. And everything, the Skashros and the Rebbe, and writing to the Rebbe together. And I'm not just giving suggestions. I'm passionate. It's a time also to celebrate this. And it's really, we don't, like, Ar Menachem doesn't take credit for like, we're not like singing solo here. Baruch Hashem, we're all on the same page. And it's something really, really to celebrate. The fact that we're able to create, be on the same page, and be not only a safe haven. It just takes one kid to come in and, what I saw, this video for another kid to come home and can you buy me this video too? And and the fact that we're all able to koch, and we're not, and we're all realistic, and some have older children, and still to create this type of island. And I know it makes it sound like very dramatic and very pastoralish, like everything pastoral, like it sounds like. It's not always how it looks, a Shabbos table. You always envision that your Shabbos table is going to look. A Shabbos table is also a big juggling act. And but together with that, to really create a geschmack in Yiddishkeit, and the children feel that they have a parent available for them and present for them, that's something to celebrate. That's why there's cake and cookies here. All right? So, l'chaim, we should continue our hatzlacha. And the Rebbe should continue benching us. This is a hakel, and a hakel gives koyach for many years, and it's litin schalim v'em. It's our opportunity to bring your house is a Beis Hamikdash, and bringing your children to a hakel. You're the king, the queen of this this nation, and you're presenting them not just the Torah. The hakel is about giving them the experience, and it's shown. The Rebbe teaches us it's not just a one specific event. It's any time you give them that opportunity to experience straight back to Har Sinai. I also want to say, I want to. It's very good. So the last thing before you sing a niggin, you have to be emes with children. You have to be able to say, I once had a boy that was chapped lie there for taking something from someone else's briefcase. And I called him the father, whatever. It wasn't the first time. It would have been the first time, so for the second time. But it was Nishpash. So I called him the father. He was a Russian. And he tells the boy, you know that if your friends pick up on this, then no one's going to rely on you. And no one's going to like you. No one's going to, you know what it means as an adult. And I asked the boy, I said, I want to think with your father for 2 minutes. Back to the race. And I said, just wait outside. Oh, father, the Eibishter doesn't let. The Eibishter lasnish. It's Torah. You have to be able to talk clear. You want to say the emes. You want to say, you should know that because of this, the Rebbe, there's a Yechidus, a fascinating Yechidus Tafshin Chaf, where Beis Yaakov, there's many very interesting heroes in that Yechidus. Tafshin Chaf, a group of Moros from Beis Yaakov came to Yechidus by the Rebbe, and there's very interesting heroes. They asked the Rebbe questions. One of the heroes that stand out is the Rebbe suggested they should have more female teachers than male teachers. And the Rebbe said, because the Amun is more begilui by them. The Amun is more begilui. And what that says, I mean, obviously man also has that, in Hakel, they all have that part, all the parts, man has this own, and also, but the tmimus, the varmkeit that a mother could give, and talking the emes, bipshitus, creating that atmosphere in the house, that the Eibusher is a parent. It's a real thing. We're standing right before this galus, and the Rebbe's Hirah is this. This is what we cherish. That's the chuppah. You understand? You can make that Har Sinai, that very, very tangible. So this is another, this Nakuda has to be, you want to remember, you want to talk often. You want to be very open and talk Getlachkeit. Talk Getlachkeit. The children are kalim to more than us. Not only that, this place where the Rebbe says that this will be mashpia on us also. They are more, they're newer from, say, the Shtalshalos. They just got here. They're bigger, they're more kalim to Getlachkeit. And we have this chus, we already saw this and we already did that and we already tried this and that. Children are very pashut. And if we are ready to roll on the floor and go to their level, we gain from it. Pashut. You're shaykh to grow and to connect with Getlachkeit in a very real way in their schus. And our children are our greatest matana, not only for what we'll get from them, it's even pashut for ourselves. Because when you're banat by zich, you're not 100%. The child will call you out on it right away. That's right. The kids are, and they help us be the chassidim we're meant to be, and we work together with them. They need to know that we're all work in progress, but we appreciate when we're matzliach to do certain things, and they should also celebrate that. Right, l'chaim. We should continue having nachas from all of us, and we should continue having nachas from the Deira Shvi Kinder. That's the title. Parenting. The title is Parenting Deira Shvi. This is a lot to sing and a lot to think about. L'chaim. You can ask questions now, or I could go if you're interested. I don't know what time you're. Whoever, I'm going to go out. Whoever wants to go. It's it's late at night. I'm saying I don't think we're all working tomorrow. But yeah, definitely. Or we could do questions now and then you'll sing a niggin, however you want to. We'll do a niggin first or a niggin. I guess a niggin first. Niggin first.